Some people enter your life loudly, while others sit quietly at the edge of your pain until one day you realize they were healing you all along. 2 winters ago, there was an old dog who used to sleep outside our apartment building. Nobody knew where he came from. He looked rough with dirty beige fur, one torn ear, one cloudy eye, and a limp that made every step seem painful. The children called him Ghost because he moved like something the world had forgotten. At first I hated him. He slept near my parking spot, tore open trash bags, barked at night, and growled whenever anyone came close. But honestly, that year I had already become just as broken. My mother had died 6 months earlier. My engagement ended soon after, and grief slowly turned my apartment into a place that no longer felt like home. I stopped answering calls, stopped meeting people, and most nights I simply sat by the window pretending not to exist. Every night that old dog sat downstairs near the gate, alone just like me. One cold rainy evening, I saw him curled beside the security cabin completely soaked, while the guard complained that he refused to leave. The dog looked at me with tired eyes, not begging, not hopeful, just exhausted, and something inside me cracked. I went upstairs, brought an old towel and leftover chicken, and quietly placed the food near him. Slowly, painfully, he limped forward and ate like he hadn't eaten in days. After that, feeding him became part of my routine. No touching, no affection, just quiet understanding. Every evening he waited outside the gate for me. And one night when I came home late and exhausted, I saw him sitting there in the fog, watching the road, as if he had noticed I was missing. That realization hurt more than I expected, because for the first time in months, someone had waited for me. Slowly things changed. I started buying proper dog food. The children stopped fearing him, and a little girl named Mira began calling him Captain, because despite his limp, he walked around like an old soldier guarding everyone. But healing is never clean. One afternoon, a delivery biker threw a stone at Captain after he barked near his bike. Captain yelped in pain, and when the man dismissed him as just a stray dog, I suddenly felt furious because I understood what it meant to be treated as something unimportant. That evening, for the first time, I cleaned Captain's wound inside the apartment lobby, and when I finished, he rested his head against my knee for 3 quiet seconds before pulling away. Somehow it felt like forgiveness. Winter passed, Captain gained strength, his fur slowly returned, and without realizing it, I started healing too. I cooked again, answered messages, opened the curtains, and laughed sometimes. Not because life became perfect, but because something inside me no longer felt completely alone. Then one morning, Captain didn't appear. Days passed until I finally found him beneath broken cement pipes near an abandoned construction site, weak and dying. I sat beside him for an hour while cars passed, and strangers ignored us. That night I brought him home, not because I believed I could save him, but because nobody should leave this world alone. He slept beside my couch wrapped in blankets, and before sunrise, quietly and peacefully, Captain was gone. I cried harder than I had at my mother's funeral, because sometimes we don't just mourn someone, we mourn the part of ourselves they healed. I buried him beneath a small tree behind our apartment, while Mira placed a biscuit beside the grave, and the security guard stood silently nearby. And as I looked at that small mound of earth, I realized Captain never needed saving. I did. That old dog everyone avoided, the creature people called dirty and unwanted, had slowly carried me back toward life without ever speaking a single word. Maybe that's the strange thing about healing. Sometimes it doesn't arrive through dramatic miracles or grand speeches. Sometimes it arrives limping, scarred, quiet, and patient enough to sit beside your loneliness until you remember how to live again. Captain never belonged to anyone, but during the most broken season of my life, he somehow became family.